Most people think their life is controlled by luck, money, connections, talent, motivation. But what if the real prison is something far more dangerous? Something so close, you hear it every day, and mistake it for yourself, your mind. And the terrifying part is, the voice destroying your future sounds exactly like you. You wake up tired, not physically, mentally. You grab your phone before your eyes fully open, scroll through strangers winning at life, and within seconds, your brain quietly whispers, maybe I'm just not meant for more. That thought seems harmless, small, invisible, forgettable, but that's how mental destruction begins. Not with explosions, with repetition, because the human brain doesn't care if a thought is true, only if it's repeated. And most people are unknowingly repeating their own downfall every single day. That's why two people can live in the same city, have the same opportunities, watch the same videos, and still end up with completely different lives, because reality is filtered through identity. And identity is built through thought. The terrifying truth is, your thoughts are not just reactions, they are instructions. Instructions your nervous system obeys. Instructions your habits memorize. Instructions your future eventually becomes. And modern life knows this. Social media knows this. Algorithms know this. Advertising knows this. That's why fear spreads faster than truth. Why outrage gets more engagement than peace. Why insecurity is more profitable than confidence. Because a distracted mind is easier to control. A doubtful person buys more, consumes more, escapes more. Look around. People aren't just addicted to entertainment anymore. They're addicted to mental avoidance. Every notification, every scroll, every quick dopamine hit is training the brain to escape silence. Because silence is dangerous. Silence forces confrontation, and most people are terrified of being alone with their own mind. Not because they hate silence, but because silence reveals the thoughts they've been running from. And eventually, those hidden thoughts become personality. Then personality becomes behavior. Then behavior becomes destiny. That's the part nobody talks about. You don't suddenly become a failure. You rehearse failure internally, until your body believes it. You rehearse insecurity, until confidence feels unnatural. You rehearse procrastination, until action feels painful. The brain is adaptive. Whatever you repeat, it strengthens. That's neuroscience. But it's also tragedy, because many people are unknowingly training themselves to stay weak. The mind becomes whatever environment it lives in. And if your internal environment is toxic, your external life eventually reflects it. That's why some people sabotage opportunities the moment things improve, because deep down, their identity is still attached to struggle. They say they want success, but their nervous system is addicted to familiarity. And pain can become familiar. Loneliness can become familiar. Chaos can become familiar. Even suffering can become identity. That's why people return to toxic relationships, self-sabotage progress, quit too early, stay addicted to distractions, because the mind always tries to return to what feels emotionally familiar, even if it's destroying you. And this is where the real war begins. Not outside, inside, because your mind is constantly collecting evidence for who you believe you are. If you think you're a failure, your brain highlights failures. If you think nobody cares about you, your brain notices rejection. If you think life is hopeless, your attention filters reality through hopelessness. The brain is like a search engine. Whatever identity you type in, it searches reality for proof. And over time, you stop seeing life clearly. You only see confirmation. That's why two people can experience the same setback, and one becomes stronger while the other collapses. The event wasn't the difference. Interpretation was. One says, this pain is teaching me. The other says, this pain proves I'm worthless. Same pain, different identity, different future. But here's the dangerous part modern society ignores. Negative thinking isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds rational. I'm just being realistic. I don't want to fail. I'll wait until I'm ready. I need more motivation first. No. That's fear wearing intelligence as a disguise. Because the brain loves certainty, even miserable certainty. Your mind would rather stay in familiar pain than risk unfamiliar growth. That's why transformation feels uncomfortable, not because you're failing, but because your old identity is fighting for survival. The moment you try to evolve, your brain panics. You suddenly feel tired, distracted, unmotivated, not by accident. Your nervous system is trying to pull you back into the familiar version of yourself, and most people surrender right there. That's why they never change. Not because they lack potential, because they obey every emotional state. But emotionally driven people become mentally weak, and mentally weak people become easy to manipulate. That's why discipline is more powerful than motivation. Motivation depends on feelings. Discipline depends on identity. One disappears under pressure. The other survives chaos. And the people who transform their lives understand something most people never realize. You cannot hate yourself into becoming better. Real transformation begins when you become aware of your own mental programming, noticing the patterns, the loops, the invisible scripts running your behavior. Because awareness breaks automation. The moment you catch the thought, "I'll never change," and challenge it, the prison weakens. The moment you act despite fear, the identity cracks. The moment you keep promises to yourself, self-respect returns. That's how people rebuild themselves, not in one dramatic moment, but through repeated evidence, tiny acts, repeated daily. The gym when you don't feel like it, the work session without dopamine, the silence without distraction, the difficult conversation, the uncomfortable truth, the delayed gratification. Every action becomes a vote for a new identity. And eventually, your mind begins working for you instead of against you. Because thoughts become habits, habits become character, character becomes destiny. Most people wait for life to change them. Powerful people change the way they think and force life to respond. That's the difference. The scary truth is, your life tomorrow is being shaped by what you repeatedly think today. Not once, repeatedly. Because repetition creates belief, and belief silently controls behavior. So the real question isn't, what do you want? The real question is, what are you repeatedly telling yourself you are? Because one day, your mind will stop arguing with your thoughts and become them.